Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us today for our Memorial Day services. Today we are here in Monterey to conduct our Memorial Day service for Watsonville, Salinas, and Monterey. We are honoring all those soldiers who've served, all those who have fought for our freedom. And so we want to acknowledge them today as well. I have a good friend who watches our online streaming services every week. And his name is Marty, and he's probably watching right now. He's of Jewish descent. He's a practicing Jew, but he listens to the talks every week and finds value in the Buddha Dharma. And this is a great example of how no matter who you are, no matter what time you find yourselves in life, no matter what faith you practice, there is value in the Buddha Dharma. As I mentioned, we want to take a moment to honor our soldiers who fought and served for our freedom. Freedom is a very valuable commodity for us. We have the freedom to worship. We have the freedom to live as a family together. We have the freedom to work for a better life. The freedom to make decisions about our bodies. The freedom to love who we wish. The freedom to marry whom we wish. And the freedom to express our sexuality without being judged. A freedom to say no to tyranny. But Memorial Day has also evolved, not just the soldiers, but to honor all people who have stood up, who have fought for our freedom, while wearing the uniform or not. So Memorial Day is for all of our families, all of our friends who have gone before us, whose lives have contributed to ours. And today especially I want to acknowledge close to 100,000 people in the United States alone that have died from the COVID-19 virus. We want to honor them today as well. With that, I'm going to ask our minister's assistant, Mr. Bill Wurtenberg, to share with us an opening reading.
Please join me in God's show. Beyond the desires and worldly passions that mind entertains, there abide, clear and undefiled, the fundamental and true essence of the mind. Water is round in a round receptacle and square in a square one. But water itself has no particular shape. People often forget this. People see this good and that bad. They like this and dislike that. They discriminate in existence and non-existence, and then, being caught up in these entanglements, become attached to them, they suffer. If people would only give up their attachments to these imaginary and false discriminations and restore the purity of the original minds, then both their mind and their body will be free from defilement and suffering. They would know the peacefulness that comes with that freedom. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Thank you, Bill. And now, if you will find on your websites the Purple Chanting Sutra book, we'll chant the Sambujo on page 24, the large purple service book, followed by the Sambutsage on page 79. you very much. Now I'd like to ask everybody to please join me in the Gatha Namu Amida Butsu on page 174 of the large purple service book. When life is fair and sunlight gilds the day, when fortune smiles and flowers adorn our way, our tears make pause with grateful hearts to say, though our way leads neath the darkened sky, and to our love once pain and death draw nigh, our tears may flow, yet trustingly we cry, Namu Amida Thank you. If you please turn to page 10 and join once again our minister's assistant Bill Wurtenberg in the threefold refuge.
Difficult is receiving human form, now we are living it. Difficult is hear the Dharma of the Buddha, now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we together with all sentient beings awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we together with all sentient beings enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we together with all sentient beings become units in true accord and harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter. Even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas, now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teachings. Namu Amida.
Namu Amida.
Namu Amida.
Namu Amida.
Namu Amida.
Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, everyone. I'd like to share with you a reading from the Amida Kyo. If you please join me in Gassho. Again, Shariputra, in the land of Skuhavati, there are 7 rows of balustrades, 7 rows of fine nets, and 7 rows of arrayed trees. They are all of 4 gems, and they surround and enclose the land. For this reason it is called Skuhavati. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. It is a memorial, but also it's a holiday, so I hope everybody is enjoying the time to maybe get outside in your yard and enjoy the sun. It's a beautiful day here in Monterey. Also, want to reach out to those vets, both former military, and thank them for their service and how they're really a deep connection to us and history. You know, I had the opportunity this last year in October to travel to France and conduct memorial services at the national cemeteries there in parts of France. There's 3 different places we visited where we did memorial services and honoring those who died in Europe, especially the Nice vets who died there. So anyway, we're all experiencing this stay at home still, over 2 months long now. And as we do this, I notice things, you know, it seems that the world is getting a little bit smaller because we're staying at home. We're not going out as much. And because it's smaller, I'm spending more time noticing the little things that are occurring around our home. One of the things, for example, that I notice is how quickly dust accumulates around the house. And because we're home a lot, I'm doing more cleaning, but the dust seems to just accumulate so quickly around the house. I also notice how much life there is in our backyard. You know, there's so much life teeming in the backyard. There's squirrels, there's bees, there's ants, there's all kinds of different animals, including spiders and squirrels. There's crows, there's robins, there's canaries, there's sparrows, and they're just all over our backyard. I have a small water fountain. They come and they drink out of that fountain. And I noticed too that there are, you know, several trees in our backyard, and how all of this life interacts with the trees that are there in our yard. They use it as a home, they use it for shelter, they use it to rest, they use it to feed, eat, for nourishment, for shelter, all these things. So there's a very interesting dynamic relationship between the life outside in our yard and the trees in our yard. And sometimes we forget how much trees are a part of our lives. You know, we see them all the time, and yet we say, oh yeah, it's a nice looking tree, but we don't really think about how much it's a part of our lives. And we may have a favorite tree. You know, in our yard, we have a weeping cherry tree out front, we have a Japanese maple. Out in the backyard, we have more maple trees, we have 2 wisteria trees, we have another cherry tree, we have a variety of fruit trees back there. So we have a lot of trees in our backyard, and some of these, you know, are our favorites, and that's why we have them there, like the cherry tree and the wisteria tree. Now here in Monterey, we have the black pine, and in the garden here at the temple, we have black pine throughout the area, different types of pines, and also a lot of eucalyptus trees as you drive around the peninsula. Now typically, today, we would be going to the cemetery. We would be at the cemetery doing services, and all of the members would gather around. And there, we're out in the open, the grass, the flowers, the fresh air, and all of the trees that are there as well. And again, we go to the cemetery, we don't maybe pay that much attention to them. Well, trees are a very important part of Buddhist history. The Buddha was born under a tree. His mother, Queen Maya, reached up to pluck a flower from the tree. And as she reached up, the baby was born. So his birth is under a tree. And then at the age of 35, he sat under a tree in deep meditation and became the Buddha. And that tree is now known as the Bodhi tree. And a descendant of that original Bodhi tree still exists in northern India. And this is a picture of that tree. And then, when the Buddha died, he laid down between 2 sala trees, they're called. And there he breathed his last breath and passed away. So the tree has been an integral part of the history of Buddhism, of the life of Shakyamuni Buddha. But also there's another tree. It's called the ginkgo tree. It's very famous in Japan. Most temples, in fact, I think every temple that you visit in Japan has a ginkgo tree growing outside of it. And that ginkgo tree is known for, in hot weather especially, it starts to sweat. It starts to, the leaves generate moisture. So the theory is that if there's a fire, that this tree will begin to spray out water and douse the fire. So temples like to have this ginkgo tree. But also, Shinran Shonin was born in a small town called Hino. And there's a temple there. And at that temple, there is a ginkgo tree. And it is said that after Shinran's birth, his umbilical cord was taken and buried beneath that ginkgo tree that still grows there today. So the symbol of the tree has been used a lot, not only in Buddhism, but just throughout history of humankind. They are used to represent families. There are roots that go off in many directions, and they give life to the tree, these roots. It provides stability for the tree. And there are branches growing and sprouting in all directions. And our lives are represented with a tree like this, or like the trees in your yard, or the trees here at the temple. We also have our roots planted in the soil of America, our parents and our grandparents. We have current families and friends and the Sangha that are all these branches branching out from this tree. An intricate weaving of connections, of beings from the past, the present, and also into the future. And all of these elements, they really provide stability in our life. The trees in our yards and in our world, they are not trying to be anything else. They are just being trees, not trying to be anything else. They are being truly free and natural. And it's an interesting phenomenon when I go out in the yard and I look at the trees. They seem to be following the sun. The leaves, you can't visually see them, but if you watch them, the leaves follow the sun, moving with the sun to receive the light and the warmth of the sun. The sun shines indiscriminately on all the trees, on all of us. And using the tree as an example, we don't have to try to be anything else but who we are and receive the warmth and the light of Amida Buddha that's represented by the sun. So in order for trees to grow, they need the soil, the wind, the rain. In order for us to grow, we need the same. And all of that, the sun, the soil, the wind, the rain, is represented by Amida Buddha, nourishing our life. And all we have to do is live, and Amida takes care of the rest. So in deep gratitude to all of the roots, all of the branches, all of the things that make our life full and worth living, we say thank you today. Again, I want to close with a reading from the Amida Kyo. Please join me in Gassho. Shariputra, in the Buddha land, a gentle breeze blows. The precious trees in rows and begemmed nets sound a delicate, enrapturing tune. It is just as if 100,000 musical instruments were playing together. Everyone who hears that music naturally conceives the thought to invoke the Buddha, to invoke the Dharma, and to invoke the Sangha. Shariputra, the Buddha land is arrayed with such excellent qualities and adornments. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Now I'm going to borrow this book, and if you'll please I'd like to share with you the reading of Denyo Shonin's Gobunsho. Shonin の関係のこの向きは信じのもて本当すられそうそのゆえはもろもろの造業を投げ捨てて一心に御に君をすれば不可思議の眼力として運の糧より往生は事情せしめたもそのくらいを一年後期入少女子ゆとも釈しその上の称名念仏狙い我が往生を定めたまいし御法人の念仏と心べきなりあなかしこあなかしこShinran Shonin taught that the essence of Jodo Shinshu is Shinjin. The reason is that by abandoning all other practices and completely entrusting ourselves in Amida Buddha, our spiritual rebirth is assured by Amida through the inconceivable power of the primal vow. This is known as entering the ranks of the truly assured at the very moment of Shinjin. Thereafter, all utterances of the Nembutsu should be understood only as expressions of gratitude for Amida's assurance of our rebirth. With reverence, I remain. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Now I'd like to ask everyone to join me in the Gatha Ondok-san 2 on page 220. Now I'd like to ask our minister's assistant, Mr. David Correa, to share with us a closing reading.
Please join me in Gasho. The secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, not to worry about the future, and not to anticipate troubles, but to live wisely and earnestly for the present. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And now, before we close, I want to make a few announcements. Next Sunday, May 31st, at 10 o'clock, we will once again be live streaming our services, and we will continue to do so probably into the month of June. But I want you to please check your local temple websites for the latest schedules and whether we'll be opening live services or continue with the live streaming. And please don't forget to wear your mask and practice social distancing. Thank you. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namo Amida Butsu.